Welcome back to Finally Got Around To, the place for indie games, tabletop, video, and others. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about cozy games. This is a short list of some of my favorite cozy games that I got to play while I was at PAX West last weekend. And yeah, I will say that cozy is a very vague term. Some of these games might have a little more action than some other cozy games you might be thinking of, but these kind of fall into the pattern for me, so I'm just going to go over that this way, and then yeah, that's cool. Hopefully that's cool with you. First up on the list, this is Winter Burrow. It's a game being developed by Pine Creek Games, being published by Noodle Cake. It's kind of a cozy survival game, because the idea is you are a little mouse that's trying to refurbish your old childhood home, but it is winter, so staying outside in the cold, you could actually freeze, and that's not good. But basically you are going out, finding various little supplies and resources, and using that to craft everything you need, everything from a cozy sweater to rebuilding a broken down rope bridge that leads to your family member's house. One of the first things I noticed about this game was that actually walking around and traversing the game was actually really fun. Oh my god, I just saw in the trailer you get a little snowshoe leaf. That is just really awesome. And it does, I was wondering, it does look like there is some actual combat a little bit in this game, so that's not typically a staple of a cozy quote-unquote game, but I'd still think this fits into it for the most part. We're not going to talk about the owl. The demo that I got to play was only about 20 minutes. It does seem like the game is going to kind of build up as it goes to get more and more complex. You're going to be able to craft more things, do more things. But yeah, as I was saying, just walking around in this game feels so great, because the mouse has kind of like a little hopping movement as they walk, and then there's also a little dash that you can do pretty regularly that helps it not be a very slow game where you're walking around very slowly. So I appreciated it. I'm a big fan of Redwall. I read a lot, almost every Redwall book that I could get my hands on when I was growing up, so a game where you're playing as a little mouse really speaks to me. So I was a big fan of this game, and I'm definitely going to be checking that out when it comes out, I think next year. For those who are interested, it will be on Game Pass, but I don't have a Game Pass, so... Okay, moving on to the next game. This is Herdling, which you may have noticed from, I believe it was the Gamescom opening night live. I think this is when this was first shown. But this is a game that's being developed by a studio called Okomotive. They are the studio that also made the Far series, so like Far Changing Tides. Also being published by Panic, who has been putting out a lot of really great games lately. They put out Arco and Thank Goodness You're Here earlier this year. Lots of cool stuff that they're doing. I'm very curious to follow that team. But anyway, I'm getting away from myself. So this game is called Herdling, and as you can guess, a lot of the mechanics involve herding these kind of almost strange, maybe mythological creatures. You're kind of traversing the landscape, traversing a cityscape at times, because I think the main goal is to get these creatures out of the city and into their actual natural habitats. At least for the demo that I got to play, which I think only was maybe about somewhere between 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes. I started out in the city. I found a couple of creatures, and I led them out of the city into the open fields, and we were heading towards the mountains, but then the demo ended there. It does start kind of slow. It takes a little time to kind of get used to the controls. You have to like stand behind them and face the way that you want them to go, and then give them a direction, and they move that way. So it can be a little finicky, it can be a little weird, but it is kind of a unique gameplay style, and I think it's very interesting, and I'm curious to play more of it, expand on those mechanics, and see what the rest of the game has in store. One thing that really did catch my eye was, I love the design of these creatures, the way they kind of lumber around and then eventually start moving and running. And that was kind of my biggest takeaway from the demo that I got to experience. So it started out very slow. I walk around, find one big guy, help him out, add him to my herd. And then as I add a few more creatures to my herd, I start to get out of the city. The music starts to swell. They start to be able to run, move a little faster, and then I unlock the ability to start a stampede. And that kind of, the music just bursts into a beautiful sound as they're stampeding across these fields. So really big fan of this game. I'm looking forward to trying more, and I recommend you put it on your wish list too. Looks like it's scheduled for next year. Not exactly sure what platforms it's going to be on, but hoping it'll be on many platforms. You can always wish list all of these games on Steam, so links to those will be in the description below. Okay, next game. This is called Everdeep Aurora. It's being developed by Nautilus Games, which I believe is just 2 developers, which is pretty crazy considering how good this looks. It's also being published by Ysbryd Games, the same publisher that published Love Eternal, which is another game I've talked about on this channel. So as you can tell, I was a big fan of Ysbryd Games and the 2 games that I got to demo at PAX West. But as you can see, this game has a very unique kind of aspect ratio. It only takes up the middle part of the screen. It's kind of fun at first. It seems like there's going to be nothing on either side. It's like it's just kind of a style choice. But as you progress, you unlock the map on the right side, you unlock inventory and other stuff on the other side. So it does make use of those spaces, but it is kind of a nice style choice that kind of adds a lot of style and flavor to the game. I have to mention my good buddy Ribbert. Actually, you just saw him poking his head down the well there. Ribbert is a frog who gives you your first drill and is very happy to send a rope down to help you out whenever you need it. So Ribbert is kind of the embodiment of this game's goal, which is to never put you in a situation where you're going to get stuck, to never... I'm pretty sure this game doesn't have any combat. It's just about digging around, finding people, talking to people, having little quests here and there. So this is a game that is trying to be very forgiving to its players, trying to be considerate of their time and energy, not trying to give them a ridiculously challenging puzzle and getting stuck underground somewhere. Like, no matter where you go, you're going to be able to get out and start again. But it is kind of fun. It's almost like a platformer. It has a lot of platforming elements. Of course, you're jumping around, moving, but unlike most platformers, you actually can affect the terrain around you by digging through it. So during the demo, I dug through along for like 20 minutes. I was digging through the ground, and then I realized I had to get back up to something to deliver a quest. And I kind of looked at the map and I was like, oh, I've kind of made this challenging platformer experience for myself, which is kind of fun. And I'm kind of curious to explore that more. But I do have a lot more I want to talk about with this game. If I remember correctly, there's potentially multiple endings to the story. The story being that the player wakes up on a bench on the surface with a note from their mother that they have gone underground and you don't know where exactly they are, but you're going to try to find them. I'm not sure what these multiple endings will be. I'm hoping at least one of them is a happy ending, but we will see. I love the art style of it's kind of like my brain wants to say black and white, but it's also got a lot of color in it. It's primarily black and white, but the nice kind of like choices of color here and there. One thing that I found whenever I'm traversing through the underground, I come upon an interesting NPC or an interesting location, the game will kind of alert me by changing the background color, changing the music, so that I know that I've found something that's worth checking out. Even if I'm not completely aware of what exactly I've found, I know I'm near something and I should look for it. It also does this with just actual sound. Like one quest that I had during the demo was to find a spring of water and fill a cup so I could water some flowers. I know, cozy games, right? And I was actually exploring and I heard the sounds of running water. And so I followed those sounds and led me to a spring. So big fan of that. As I mentioned Ribbert already, Ribbert the frog. There's a bunch of other interesting characters, as you can probably see in this footage here. There's a duck guy right there. There's I ran into, I think, a shark and maybe like a fish person. So lots of interesting characters that have a lot of well-written dialogue, interesting things to say, interesting quests to give you, stuff like that. Yeah, overall this is a very cozy, friendly, fun game, but it does have kind of a dark story where the surface kind of becomes uninhabitable, and that's why everybody has moved to this underground world. So yeah, I probably rambled on about this game a lot, but I am very excited about it and definitely curious to play more. I don't know much about the release date for this. I think probably next year, but I'm going to be looking for a demo on Steam or anything like that. And as soon as I hear anything, I'll definitely let you guys know. So make sure to hit that subscribe and like button on the channel. Check out my website. Okay, next game. This is Wilmot Works It Out. This is a puzzle game. It's being developed by Hollow Ponds and Richard Hogg, who also made the game Flock, which is one of my favorite games of this year. It's being published by Finji, who has published a lot of other great indie games like Tunic. It's also kind of a sequel, I believe. I don't want to say that for sure. I mean, there was a game, Wilmot's Warehouse, that came out a little while ago, maybe a couple years ago, that I believe is similar, and I believe this is a continuation of that character, that story. But as you can see, you are basically just living in a little home, and every so often a delivery will come to your door. You open those boxes, and it's full of all these little tiles that are all disorganized, and eventually make full images. It's literally like you would get a puzzle at home and put the pieces together. But Wilmot has a pretty unique mechanic where he comes up to one of the little squares and just kind of grabs it and moves. It's clever, it's simple. I don't know where they come up with the ideas for these images, like a cowboy worm sticking out of an apple, or a goblin, whack-a-goblin game, I don't know. But it was really fun. It was the last game I actually played at PAX. I just sat for about 20 minutes and played the game. And it was very relaxing and very enjoyable. Very much looking forward to playing more of this. The concept is there, but there's always more to explore. So yeah, I think this is one worth checking out if you're interested in cozy games, puzzle games. It's definitely one to put on your list. And of course, it comes out in October, so look forward to that. But now we'll move on to the final game. This is Spray Paint Simulator. It is being developed by North Star Games, published by Whitethorn Games. I already wrote a little bit about this on my website, so I won't spend too much time on it, but as you can see, it's kind of in that simulator style game area, kind of like Power Wash Simulator, other things like that. But what this game does a little bit more than some of those other simulators is that it allows for certain levels of creativity. Obviously, there's a story mode where you're assigned jobs and you paint what is requested. But they also have a free play mode where you can kind of do whatever you want. You can paint this house all different colors and do whatever you want. There's a radio you can actually get in the game that just plays music, so you can have that going while you're playing. You can paint a bridge. You can paint other giant things. You can paint the whole town. There's so much that you can explore and find within this game. And getting it to sit down on a couch for half an hour at PAX and play this was exactly the experience I needed, because so much of PAX is spent walking around, standing around. Not a lot of booths actually have a place where you can sit and play the game. A lot of them are standing, so I was very thankful to Whitethorn Games and North Star Games for giving me the chance to actually sit and, relax for half an hour on one of the 4 days. But yeah, it's got a very interesting gameplay. You've got 3 different nozzles. You got all these different kinds of colors. You have to keep track of your supplies, be it paint or tape or paper that if you're working on a car, you want to cover up the tires so you don't get paint all over the tires. And so kind of going through those motions can feel very meditative, methodical. And then when you ultimately cover the whole thing in paint and then remove all that, it has a very nice and clean look that is very satisfying. So I'm looking forward to learning more about this game. I believe it's not coming out until next year, but let's see if it says. Okay, I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think it's coming out this year. I'll keep an eye on it on Steam if you're interested, though. Yeah, those are my top 5, I guess, cozy games that I got to play at PAX, and I hope you enjoyed them as well. If anyone caught your eye, wishlist them on Steam. Links are in the description. Other than that, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.